It was an ordinary Tuesday afternoon when Sarah, a single mother, came home from work, ready to unwind after a long day. She looked forward to spending time with her 12-year-old son, Jake, who was usually bubbling with energy and enthusiasm. Sarah often wondered how she managed to raise such a vibrant child on her own. Jake was smart, creative, and had a knack for making his mom laugh, even on the toughest days. But that day was different. As Sarah stepped through the door, she noticed the silence enveloping their small home. Normally, she would hear Jake's laughter or the sound of him playing video games. She called out, "Jake, are you home?" But only the echo of her voice answered her. A feeling of unease settled in the pit of her stomach as she dropped her bag on the couch and headed to his room. When she opened the door, the sight that greeted her sent chills down her spine. Jake was sitting at his desk, completely focused on something on his computer screen. His room was dimly lit, the curtains drawn, and the atmosphere felt heavy, almost suffocating. "Hey, buddy, what are you up to?" she asked, trying to sound casual, but her heart raced as she sensed something was off. Jake quickly minimized the window on his computer and turned to face her, a nervous smile creeping onto his face. "Oh, nothing much, just playing a game," he replied, but Sarah couldn't shake off the feeling that he was hiding something. "Okay, but you know it's almost dinner time, right? We need to eat soon," Sarah said, attempting to draw him into conversation. But Jake only nodded, his eyes darting back to the screen for a moment before he looked down at his hands, which were fidgeting with a pen. Sarah tried to dismiss her concerns, chalking it up to typical teenage behavior. She had read enough parenting books to know that kids sometimes keep secrets, especially at this age. But as she watched Jake, her instinct told her that something deeper was troubling him. Dinner passed uneventfully. They chatted about school, Jake's friends, and the latest video games, but the playful banter that usually filled the room felt strained. Sarah couldn't help but notice the way Jake avoided eye contact and shifted in his seat, as if he was wrestling with some inner turmoil. Later that evening, as Jake settled into bed, Sarah decided to check his room for anything unusual. She entered quietly, careful not to disturb him. Her eyes scanned the room, landing on the computer. A quick glance showed it was locked, but something felt off. She considered waiting until morning to confront him about it, but her motherly intuition wouldn't let her rest. That night, Sarah tossed and turned, unable to shake the feeling that Jake was keeping a secret. As the sun rose the next day, she resolved to dig deeper. After breakfast, she casually asked, "Hey Jake, can I take a look at what you were working on yesterday?" Jake's face turned pale, and for a moment, Sarah thought he might bolt. It was just a school project," he stammered, avoiding her gaze. "You don't need to worry about it." But Sarah's worry only grew. She decided to take a more direct approach. "Honey, if something's bothering you, you know you can talk to me, right?" He shrugged and muttered, "I'm fine, Mom." But Sarah wasn't convinced. Later that day, while Jake was at school, Sarah found herself pacing the living room, wrestling with the urge to confront him. She felt torn between trusting her son and the nagging suspicion that something was very wrong. Finally, she made up her mind. She would check his computer. After some hesitation, Sarah sat down at Jake's desk, her heart racing. She logged into the computer, using the password he had set for school assignments. As the screen flickered to life, she felt a mix of apprehension and determination. What if she discovered something terrible? She started by looking through his recent files. At first, it seemed harmless enough: school projects, pictures from the last family vacation, and even a few drawings that Jake had made. But as she scrolled deeper, her heart sank. There it was, a series of disturbing messages in an online chat room. The conversations were graphic and alarming, filled with dark themes and unsettling discussions. Sarah's hands trembled as she clicked through the messages, her heart racing with each word she read. It was a world she never knew Jake was part of, filled with discussions that were far beyond his years. One message in particular caught her eye, a conversation about a local news story involving a missing child. The users were discussing it in a manner that made her stomach turn. Some were expressing morbid curiosity, while others were sharing hurtful memes. It was clear that they were taking pleasure in the pain of others, and Jake was in the middle of it. In that moment, everything changed. The boy she thought she knew was not the same. Sarah felt her heart drop as she realized the horrifying secret her son had been hiding. This was not just a phase, it was something much darker. Feeling overwhelmed, Sarah closed the laptop and took a deep breath, trying to gather her thoughts. She knew she needed to confront Jake, but how could she approach such a sensitive topic? Would he even understand the gravity of what she had discovered? When Jake returned home from school, Sarah was waiting for him, her heart pounding in her chest. "We need to talk," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her. Jake's face paled, and he immediately shifted into a defensive posture. "About what?" "About what I found on your computer," Sarah replied, searching his eyes for any signs of remorse. "What do you mean?" he asked, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. "I saw the messages, Jake. I can't believe what I read. You need to tell me why you're involved in that stuff." His eyes widened in disbelief. "I was just curious, Mom. I didn't mean anything by it." "Curious?" Sarah exclaimed, her voice rising. "This isn't just curiosity, Jake. These are people talking about terrible things. You need to understand how dangerous this is." Jake looked down, his face flushed with shame. I know, but it's just, I didn't think it was that serious." Sarah felt a mix of frustration and heartbreak as she struggled to comprehend her son's thought process. "Jake, this is not a game. These are real people, real lives. You have to realize the impact of these discussions." Jake began to cry, the weight of his actions crashing down on him. "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just thought it was, I don't know, interesting." In that moment, Sarah knew they needed to have an open and honest conversation. "It's important to talk about these things, Jake. I want you to feel safe coming to me if something worries you. You're not alone in this." He wiped his tears, his voice shaky. "I promise I won't do it again. I didn't mean for it to get out of hand." "I believe you, but we need to talk about why you felt the need to explore those dark corners of the internet," Sarah said gently. Jake nodded, his face still wet with tears. I guess I wanted to see what people were talking about. I didn't think it was bad." "That's the thing though, sweetheart. Not everything online is safe or healthy. There are people out there who take advantage of others' vulnerabilities," she explained, her heart aching for her son. Together, they discussed the importance of online safety and how curiosity can sometimes lead us down a dangerous path. Sarah encouraged Jake to think critically about the content he consumes and to question whether it aligns with his values. Over the next few days, Jake began to open up more about his feelings and struggles. They spent time together, playing video games and watching movies, slowly rebuilding the trust that had been shaken. Sarah felt grateful that they could have these conversations, but the worry still lingered in her mind. She decided it would be best for Jake to attend counseling sessions to help him process everything he had experienced. They found a local therapist specializing in adolescent issues. Jake was hesitant at first, but Sarah assured him that seeking help was a sign of strength, not weakness. At their first session, the therapist gently guided Jake through his emotions, helping him explore the reasons behind his online behavior. Together, they worked on strategies for coping with curiosity, anxiety, and peer pressure. Sarah felt relieved knowing her son was in capable hands, and Jake seemed to respond positively to the sessions. As time went on, Jake became more aware of the potential dangers lurking online. He started participating in discussions about mental health and internet safety at school, sharing his story with classmates. Sarah watched in awe as her son transformed from a boy filled with secrets to a young man who embraced vulnerability and growth. One day, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Jake turned to Sarah and said, Thanks for not giving up on me, Mom. I know I messed up, but I'm really trying to be better. Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she hugged her son tightly. I'll always be here for you, Jake. We're in this together.